Kristen. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. I've been watching a bit of your journey, which has been incredible, honestly, unbelievable if I was looking at it from the outside, which I am, but I've kind of been there, so I kind of know what it's like. But I'm going to start off with asking you similar questions to the other questions I've asked other people. So, one, why did you start doing the all meat diet?
I started because I had debilitating mental illness. I had bipolar disorder that turned into rapid cycling, which bipolar can be, you have a good couple of years and then you have some bad years. You can have good months and then bad months. Mine went into every single day. I didn't know who I was going to be. It was like I was two different people, and either I was up and able to function or I was in bed and completely unable to function. And so I learned through, researching the carnivore diet that there was a possibility that other people had resolved their bipolar disorder symptoms with eating only meat. And so I just jumped right in. I was so miserable. I was in such a dark, dark place that nothing was too out there. I was already taking 900 milligrams of lithium, 80 milligrams of Adderall just to get out of bed every day, 80 milligrams of Prozac, and then Ambien to sleep every night to counteract that Adderall. So I feel like that was extreme. So I was willing to go.
You feel like that was extreme. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't 80 milligrams of Adderall. Jesus. I was taking 40 milligrams of Adderall, and I went to 50 because I started to get used to the 40. I was like, oh shit, I can't stay awake. And I went to 50 and was just like, I can't keep doing this. It's way too hard. I cannot even imagine what being like 80. I can't imagine 80 milligrams.
I would take horrible. 40. I would take 40 before I would even get out of bed.
Yeah, like that's what I did. I had
an alarm set.
Yeah.
And then I would take 40 at noon. And then, of course, I had to have Ambien at night so that I could sleep because I'd had 80 milligrams of Adderall all day.
So why, what did you see that convinced you even to try it?
My brother sent me the first book chapter of the audiobook by Amber O'Hearn. And I just listened to her first chapter. And I remember I was just laying in the bathtub and I had it on my phone. It was on an audiobook. And all I could do was just lay there and listen to it. And something resonated in me. And I really can't explain it, but there was a knowing. There was a knowing that I knew that whatever she had gone through, for some reason, this worked for her and that it was possible. That's all I needed, was that it was possible that this could work for me. And I was willing to try. And so I jumped in the next day. I went from the standard American diet to only meat and fat, animal meat and animal fat the next day. And I didn't turn back.
Okay. And then I haven't read Amber's book, to be honest. I know she suffered from bipolar, and I learned about her a number of months after I started the carnivore diet. But what was the transition like going from the standard American diet to the carnivore diet?
Yeah, the first week I felt like I had kind of the flu, but what I didn't know was that I already had an underlying condition of multiple sclerosis. And so I already felt like crap. My joints ached. I was just had complete brain fog. And I didn't know at the time when I actually started this. I started this February 24th of 2019. That was what was really going on. But the first week I felt like I had the flu. I was nauseous, headache, sore, irritable. And then as I went into the second and third week, I started feeling better, but I still had those cravings for sugar and everything. But once I got to the end of the fourth week, I experienced joy. And the joy was all I needed, just to know what that felt like, to experience that glimpse of joy was all I needed to just keep going. And then my cravings resolved. And that's what shocked me, because I don't have a lot of like willpower. I'm not this like healthy guru person at all. And it was a piece of cake. Funny. But it was very easy once I ate enough animal fat. Once I had enough bacon or sausage, or any kind of animal fat, I was fine.
Okay, so you were on a number of medications. Did you have trouble getting off of them?
No, I didn't attempt to get off of any of my medications until my psychiatrist recognized that I was doing so well. So I didn't taper off my meds until July. So I started February 24th. I didn't start tapering off until July. And my last med was September of 2019.
Okay, so you had a psychiatrist that maybe knew what they were doing.
Yes. And he said, Emily, there's light in your eyes. And he's been with me for almost 10 years now.
What did he think about the fact that you were only eating meat?
He didn't really have much to say about that particularly. He just kept saying, I can see a difference. I can see a difference. And I was able to get through my sessions without crying, without like being this bumbly mess. And he was just, and then when I started working in June of 2019, I started working full time. And I hadn't worked full time for a while. And so that was huge to him as well. And then he decided, he was just like, okay, I think you're ready. And I was like, I was like, no, like the meds are my security blanket. Can't we just be happy that I'm functioning? And he was like, yeah, but we can taper off. And so we tapered really slowly off. And I still see him every 2 months just to make sure.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Be a little bit concerned. You don't want to drop back into insanity.
No.
People who don't know what that's like don't understand how horrible that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Physical transition. You had a massive, I've seen your before and after pictures and they're huge. So can you describe, for people who don't know who you are, can you describe what happened physically?
Yeah, that was really a nice side effect, but it wasn't my intention. I liked being a big girl. And I didn't see anything wrong with my body. I didn't realize how sick I was. I had no idea how much inflammation I had. And I'm grateful now that for the weight loss and losing the inflammation, but I was at 240 pounds. I'm 5'8", and it started going off. I mean, immediately. It was almost a pound a day. It was crazy. And so I started at 240 on February 24th, 2019. And by December of 2019, I was at 135. And I've kept it off. I'm still at 130, 135.
Okay. So part of the reason I'm doing this specific episode is because even just hearing the transformation from my perspective, and I'm literally on the same diet and I've had somewhat of a similar transformation, it still doesn't sound believable compared to what you hear. It really doesn't sound believable. So I'm trying to give people a perspective and talk to real people, because this actually happens, as insane as that is, because you wouldn't think that you could eat anything and lose that amount of weight. That just doesn't seem possible.
No.
Okay. What's your current diet like?
I eat probably about 8 ounces of beef, and it's regenerative beef. So it's like locally grass-fed beef, and 5 ounces of beef fat. So I just order the beef separately, and then 1 pound of ground beef every day. So roughly about 2 pounds every day. And I eat first thing in the morning, and that's all I eat. I just eat one meal.
You're still only on one meal a day?
And I eat it raw.
No.
Yeah, I've eaten it raw.
How do you like that?
I know, it's weird.
Okay, I've tried that. After you only eat meat for a while, like you try only eat meat for like a couple of years and you're like, well, all these people are talking about like eating meat raw. Like maybe I should try it. But I don't know.
Well, I don't, because I coach people on eating this way, eating carnivore. And I don't recommend that people start there at all.
That would
Um,
be way too hard.
yeah,
It's
it's
already hard
ridiculous.
enough. That would be
And
way too hard.
it wasn't my intention. It was a natural progression. As I started this diet, I was able to really hear my body, and I was able to know what I wanted instead of just shoving my face with ice cream and pizza and ramen noodles. I could
Ramen
really,
noodles.
yeah, I could really tell what my body was saying yes to, and it was saying yes to raw fat. So that was the start. And as I got to the end of my first year, I tried raw fat. And whenever I cooked it, it felt heavy. It felt like greasy in my stomach.
Okay, I have a question. Have you tried? So I've been doing this diet since 2017, and I did only beef for years because beef was the one thing that like made me mentally stable and physically okay. But my digestion was always not so good. And I talked about that extensively on Joe Rogan, which is just something that happened. But like it wasn't good. And I about 2 years later, I realized if I ate lamb, it was okay. And that's cooked. Have you tried going on a lamb spree?
No.
You should
I
do that and see what happens because I did that with my mom because my mom has similar arthritic. She doesn't have any mental, thank God for her. She doesn't have any of the mental problems, but she had osteoarthritis and it was solved. It wasn't solved by going very low carb with like meat and greens, but it was solved going with just meat. But then she has celiac disease. I have celiac disease and she had digestive issues with all beef, even though her arthritis was gone. And it took like years for me to figure out lamb worked better. I don't know what it is with beef fat, but beef fat seems to be an issue for people who are only eating meat, which makes the diet seem even more insane. But I see what happened there because I could eat cold beef fat, I could eat jerky, but like steaks were hard on the digestive system. So you should try lamb, see what happens.
Yeah, I definitely want to try that. You've suggested that, and I'm on the lookout for a good source. But my workaround was just to eat the fat raw.
Raw.
And what
That's
I do is I just cut it into tiny little cubes, almost like cheese, just tiny little cubes, and then I freeze it. And
yeah.
so I eat it frozen and raw and salted. And then I noticed that there were some pieces of meat still attached to the fat. And then I was able to eat those. And so I was like, this is really easy. I don't have to meal plan. I don't have to, how much easier can I make this? And so I pushed the
Oh, okay.
envelope of laziness and I was like, I don't even have to cook this. Like, this is crazy. And so I tried it raw and I cut it into little cubes and I freeze it. And it is so easy.
Okay. This is why I advertise the air fryer so much. Because I'm like, hey, you take a frozen steak, you put it in the air fryer, and then as the cooked steak, like ease.
Yeah.
But when I used to cook ribs, when I was still mostly eating beef, when I used to cook ribs, I'd cook the ribs and then I'd put them in the fridge because I could eat them cold. Made no sense to me, none, because I don't understand. I don't understand how cooked beef fat can be different than cold beef fat.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. But
No.
yeah, doesn't make sense to me. So I see where you're
What
coming
I do
from.
doesn't make sense to me either. I just know that I love it. I know that I wake up every day and I cannot wait to eat this. And I'm so excited. And I've been eating the exact same thing for over a year. And before that, it was only, the only addition was chicken and pork and, stuff like that.
Can you eat pork without any like mental side effects?
No,
So you can't do pork.
I
Yeah.
haven't been able to find a local good source. I think if I found a good source, but eating it out of the grocery store, I couldn't.
Okay. I tried. I'm not even I don't think I've tried wild boar and maybe that would be better, but I certainly can't do even high quality sources of pork. And I haven't been brave enough to try it in Europe because I've heard the European pork can be higher quality and I just haven't wanted to risk it. It gives me arthritis. It gives my mom arthritis. Worse than berries or salad greens. it's actually worse, which is weird because it's meat. So it's not only about the fact that it's meat, it's specific types of meat.
Yeah.
But what about chicken? How's chicken for you?
Chicken makes me very irritable. I get really emotional. But then again, I haven't had a chance to find a good local source. So I've put all of my energy into finding a good local beef source, beef and beef fat. And so that's my sweet spot right now. I think I eventually will, experiment a little bit more, but once you feel good, you just want to stay there for a minute. And I feel like my body is healing more and more every day. So I just want to stay here for a second.
No, I get that. I did nothing but beef for 2 years. And then I added lamb very carefully. And now I know lamb is actually easier on me than beef, which I wish I had known at the beginning, but I didn't. So I would recommend trying lamb, but I certainly can't do pork, and chicken I can only do if it's bred very carefully and fed the right food, like very specifically. I can do a bit of wild salmon. Like there are things I can do now that don't make me absolutely insane, which is great. But anyway, I'm really glad you're feeling better. You look great.
Yes.
You're very clear.
Thank you. And I did add raw milk a month ago. So I have 8 ounces of raw milk every day. And that's been the first time in 2 years that I've been able to tolerate milk. So that's been really good.
And nothing has happened?
No.
And it hasn't affected your skin?
I feel better. Yeah. I actually feel better.
Okay. Well, that might be, I mean, there are a lot of doctors that say, you go on a meat diet, as crazy as it sounds, and then you heal your gut. And then you incorporate something like raw milk in order to rebuild the microbiome. So theoretically, that makes sense. I think people with specifically joint problems, depending on the person, I think they can have a very difficult time with dairy. But I mean, I don't know. I can't do it. But I've heard from a lot of people that that's kind of the next step on gut healing. It's like stop damaging it, heal, and then incorporate raw milk or some sort of pre or probiotic food to help grow back all your gut bacteria that you've lost somehow.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
And I did it really gradually, and I thought about it for like 6 months, but it was this nagging thought. And so I was just like, fine, I'll try it, and I tried it, and I felt really good. So I'm just like, okay, we'll just
That's fantastic. Part of the thing I tell people when they're trying this diet is you want to be on the diet, you want to eliminate all your symptoms, and then you want to try and heal yourself, right? Because from my perspective, people are not supposed to just eat meat forever. You're not supposed to eat a berry and then go crazy. That's an unreasonable thing for a human being to do. So ideally you can heal and be a little bit more tolerant to things that you could hopefully eat, but good for you.
Well, and I have a lot to lose if the MS comes back, because the multiple sclerosis, I mean, the bipolar disorder was terrifying, but then the multiple sclerosis, I couldn't walk without an assistive device. And I had delayed and slurred speech and worse brain fog than I did even with the bipolar. And so that was terrifying. And so I can't go back. It's not like I can just it's not like you just gain 5 pounds. It's like, if I go back, I'm going back to mental illness and physical illness I'm not going to tolerate. That's not okay with me.
I don't think people who haven't been there understand. I don't know how you explain it. Like, even knowing me, I wouldn't be able to explain it to myself. If I hadn't been there, I wouldn't believe it. It's too bad, right?
Absolutely. And that's why, people are like, this is a crazy diet. But what's crazier is staying where I was, it wasn't an option.
Yeah, right.
I was so miserable.
Try being in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like it's not good, and you'd do anything to get out of it.
Absolutely.
Emily, thank you very much for coming on, and good for you. And I'm so glad you've been able to incorporate milk. That's cool. Keep me posted if you end up going further than that. I do think people can heal out of this. Like, I've known people who've been very, very, very ill, and then they've started at the like complete bottom with meat, and then they've gone to some sort of, I mean, you teach people, but you should be able to like crawl your way out of this a little bit further. So I'm excited to
Yeah,
see what
that's my
happens.
favorite is whenever I'm talking to my clients and everything, and they start to get to that moment that I got to at 30 days, and they're just like, oh my goodness, this is what good feels like. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I'm never going back. That's my favorite conversation that I have with clients. And they're just like, I'm doing this forever. And then they don't need me, and I love it.
I know that's the point. You want to get some sort of coach where you eventually don't need them.
Yes. And I don't want them to rely on me. I want them to just try it, get through the first 30 days, 45 days, and then it takes over, and then they know they have that formula, and they know, hey, I removed this food and then I reintroduced it and it was a problem. So
Yeah,
they don't have to
exactly.
take Dr. So-and-so's advice. They know themselves what foods they react to. And it's just beautiful, empowering them to have that knowledge themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree. Emily, where can people find you online?
I'm at Carnivore Minds on Instagram. Or if you want to reach out to me for coaching, you can email me at yourcenterofbrilliance@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.